Well, good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen, and to the public that are watching all of us this morning. We are here because we want to very frankly share with South Africans what exactly is the energy situation in the country, what are some of the challenges that we are confronted with, how are we dealing with these challenges, but more importantly, to say to South Africans that this is a difficult time. It is a time when I know that many people are frustrated because of the uncertainty around what is actually happening and the kind of disruption that happens both in the business world but also in various households as a result of the load shedding that is going on in the country in the current period. We fully understand that frustration. We want to apologize for the additional burden that we're placing on our people in South Africa at this point in time, and to the businesses, small and big, which are working under very difficult circumstances in this current economic climate. But at the same time, I want to appeal to all of us to try to understand the nature of the challenges that we have. As I said, where do those challenges actually come from? And assure you that the Eskom staff in particular and the management and board, together with other government departments and government as a whole, are doing the best they can under very difficult circumstances. And you'll understand the difficulties that we are confronted with when we go through some of the details of what we have to actually share with you at this point in time. A special message to the Eskom staff as well, who particularly at a power station level and at the various other plants that supply energy on and off, whether it's the diesel plants or the dams, those who've been managing the transmission line from Cahora Bassa in Mozambique to South Africa. Both of those lines have collapsed as a result of the cyclone that swept through Mozambique and Zimbabwe. And I'm sure all of you will join us in conveying our condolences to the people of Mozambique and Zimbabwe on what seems to be a significant loss of life, and the numbers at this point that are not even available. In respect of the last matter, to show you the kind of urgency with which the President and others are dealing with this crisis, over the last 2 days, a special crew from the SANDF and combined with Eskom technicians have been flying over the parts of Mozambique where the pylons are, which carry the transmission lines between the hydropower dam and the plants in South Africa. And we'll give you a report on the status of those lines, the status of the pylons that actually hold up those lines, and further visits are planned in the next day or two by these teams in order to establish the level of damage, but also the extent to which they can be repaired sooner rather than later. So let me repeat. We understand the frustration. We don't have a magic formula. This is not about whether Pravin, Gordhan or Jabu, Mabuza or Pagamani Hadebe single-handedly have a magic wand that can actually enable us to wave that wand and say load shedding is over. It's going to be a huge struggle ahead of us to actually overcome this crisis. But what we want to do this morning is to give the public as much information as we can and have at our command, so that all of us have very similar pieces of information. For example, how much of energy is actually installed in South Africa? 48,000 megawatts. So if 48,000 megawatts has been installed in South Africa, why do we have only 28,000 megawatts available on the average day? What's the gap between 48 and 28? It's 20,000. Where does that 20,000 megawatts of energy actually disappear? And we will show you some illustrations to answer that particular question. Secondly, when that 20,000 megawatts disappears, inverted commas, what happens to the power supply system? And why do we engage as Eskom in load shedding? And the consequences of load shedding that actually follow. Thirdly, what caused this problem? There's a lot of history to it. Eskom is a very old organization. So there's some historical elements. There's some very recent history that Eskom has been through during the state capture period, which many would like to deny, but it's a reality. We confront it every single day. And then there's the current period in which we have crises at the power plants, which results in the load shedding that we actually have. So what is the cause? We will explain to you in very simple but direct terms as to what we think the cause of the problems are, and what are the solutions that we are trying to work on, because that's the most important thing. I know the most important issue for South Africans at the moment is how long will this last, and when are you able to give us certainty that load shedding will end? And all I want to do right up front, before anybody asks the question later, is to say that at this point in time, we still are getting a better grasp of the technical problems and other problems that Eskom power stations are confronting. And that is why you've had the presidential Eskom task team created by the President in January, which presented one report. You've had the Eskom board and management developing a turnaround plan and a 9-point generation plan as well. And right now we have, on a voluntary basis, 12 or 14 engineers that are visiting the plants, the power stations themselves, to give us another independent view of what's going wrong and how quickly can we repair what is going wrong at the power stations themselves. So that demonstrates to you our eagerness and determination to get to the bottom of what the problems are, but more importantly, be able to communicate to South Africans an answer to the question, how long will load shedding last? So the direct answer to that question is that we need to complete these investigations. And that we will come back to you in the next 10 to 14 days in a similar form, and equally frankly tell you where do we stand on the particular challenges we have. But more importantly, in order to ensure that we lighten the burden on South African businesses, but South Africans generally, wherever they might be in our country, we want to work more closely with municipalities and households and businesses as well to orchestrate the schedules of load shedding in a way in which we cause the least amount of disruption and damage. So at the moment we might not be doing that in the right kind of way. We've started talking to different constituencies amongst the public, and once we have a better understanding in the next day or two, we want to see how all of us can work together in order to solve this problem. My last general message is that this is not about us pointing fingers at anybody. Today we are confronted, as many times in South Africa we have, with a crisis. We've had load shedding before. We've taken steps as South Africans to manage load shedding on the demand side, not just on the supply side. In other words, how do we use electricity? You know how we introduced LED lighting or energy saving lighting. We asked people to switch geysers off, switch off swimming pool pumps, and so on and so on. Well, we've got to go back to work as one South African team so that we save as much energy as we can on the one side, and on the other side we ensure that we can produce as much energy as we can, notwithstanding the constraints that we currently have. And we can assure you that all of the constituencies on our side, government, the board, the management, and the staff at Eskom are doing the best that they can. And we again give you the guarantee that we will communicate better, because we have not communicated adequately with the South African public. But now that we have a better grasp of what is going on, and in 10 days hopefully a much better grasp as well, we assure you that we will communicate frankly on the one hand and more regularly on the other hand, so that you just don't get the alert which says load shedding tomorrow morning or load shedding tonight. We need to say more than just that to South Africans in order to explain ourselves better, and also as public officials account better to the South African public as well. So, where are we as we stand today? We're going to show you some slides. That slide there that you have is on what they call power availability. Now, I think I don't want to, where's Bernard? Right. I don't want to get paid for his job. So let him explain to you what that means, so that all of us have an understanding to the first issue I raised. We have 48,000 megawatts installed in South Africa. What happens to that 48,000? Bernard is what his official title is, the systems operator. He'll tell you what he does.
Good morning.